Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Daily Manchester United, coming to you roughly 10-15 minutes after the full-time whistle has been blown at Old Trafford. We start off with the season with a 1-0 loss against Arsenal, with the first goal and the only goal coming within a matter of minutes. And to put it bluntly, if Manchester United was a shape, it would be a circle, because they just cannot do corners. My name is Kieran. I'll be your host for today. I'm also joined by Niall and Tom on today's episode. Tom, I'll come to you first. It was a bit of deja vu the way we conceded that goal, wasn't it?
It was, and if you look at Arsenal's record from corners, I think it was something like 31 since the beginning of 2023-24, which is pretty mental, by far the best out of any opposition in the Premier League. And we just can't cope with them, and that's been our weakness for some time. And yeah, it was a very scrappy one as well. I mean, Bayibdir-y would have felt that he was blocked off in the end, I think, by Saliba to begin with. He got the initial head on it before Calafiori was able to head it in over the line, but either way, we just couldn't cope with it, and that pretty much not set the tone, because I think United responded very well to it, but we're still lacking that killer instinct going forward.
Yeah, to expand your point on, reacting well to it, I thought, Niall, last season, if a goal like that gets conceded for United, that's it. The game's decided then. But there was actually some fight in United.
Absolutely. I think that's why it's so disappointing today, because I don't know about yourselves, but I think it's a vast improvement from anything we saw last year. I think they reacted so well, like you said, but they also started the game really well as well, and kind of continued that on throughout the whole game, playing with a lot more urgency. The upgrades in the attack, which we'll get on to, I'm sure, is just incredible. Like the difference of having actually some confidence in your attacking players has been excellent. But I mean, Bayibdir all over again. Like it's absolutely mental, really. Actually, my mate was over watching the game with me. And the last time we saw Bayibdir play, we were actually at the game against Spurs in the League Cup. And we were like, oh, remember that? That's so funny. Bayibdir starting today. He literally conceded straight from a corner. And then 20 minutes later, deja vu, like you mentioned, Kieran. I mean, it's just not good enough. Like, you can say that he was fouled, that there was a bit too much pressure, and Arsenal are very cute about those things, particularly in set pieces, like they've become known for. But even go down diving, or even punch the ball. Don't flap the ball into your own net, and kind of then just look at the ref and hoping he bails you out. So really, really disappointing, because I think United really deserved something from that game. And like you mentioned, the reaction after the goal was excellent, and that kind of urgency and proactivity and quality throughout the game, I thought, was there throughout.
Yeah, and kind of an insult to injury. Had Bayibdir not flapped it, I mean, I know hindsight's 2020, but you had Ligt on the line, who probably could have and probably would have headed it away, but the sort of flap at it takes it over Ligt and into the path of Calafiori, and well, he's just there to scrap up the pieces from about 1 yard out, maybe even less than that. It's a scrappy one. It's not great, but I think going forward from that, we've had our new signings. We had Cunha and Umbermo starting alongside Mason Mount. Now, they sort of, kind of rotated between the three. It kind of felt like there wasn't a sort of central striker figure, but I think all three of them in that first half started off really well, didn't they, Tom?
Yeah, they did. It was very difficult to tell who was the number 9, because we saw the lineup, so we thought, yeah, it's going to probably be Cunha. But they were switching around here then, and Umbermo was quite rightly continuing to play on that right-hand side of the attacking midfield. And I've been really impressed with Umbermo today. I mean, irrespective of the result, the performance was what mattered to me, because there's going to be signs of rustiness from some of the players and from some of the teams, like West Ham, for instance, who had an absolute shocker of it this weekend. But that's going on a different topic. Umbermo and Cunha, I thought, had good games. I thought they got stuck in very well, and I was very impressed with Mount to go with that. And looking at the player ratings as well, because they came in quite quickly after the match had finished. I'm seeing a rating of Cunha of 7.22, Mount 6.23, which was a little bit lower than some, even though from what we saw on the pitch was better than that. And the other one for Umbermo, if I can find it, bear with me 1 second, 6.46, so not too bad.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a decent debut for them all, what it just lacked was a goal, which almost came from Umbermo twice. One from a header, which was really excellently saved by Raya in the second half, and the other one was sort of that mixture of a bicycle and a scissor kick. Niall, that would have been great if that had got in.
Oh, it was brilliant ingenuity. Like, I mean, the cross was behind him, and he kind of contorts his body in a way to get his right foot to it, and it almost ended up in the back of the net. His header as well, I had already jumped up off the sofa. I don't know what it was about the angle, but it looked like it was in, or it took ages for Raya to actually go and palm it away. But yeah, so impressed. Like I mentioned at the top of the show, the upgrade in quality from Cunha and Umbermo, like the amount of runs that Cunha just took the ball off the centre back or took the ball down in the air and just drove at the defence, and he got through in the first half. A couple of ricochets off Gabriel and Saliba. The ball was just a little bit too far away from him when the shot actually came in. Umbermo was brilliant in the first half in terms of providing us an option and an outlet on the right hand side. It was the main attacking side that we went down. And then that continued in the second half when Ahmad came on as well. That's a scary right hand side now that we have with the two of them. Like you wouldn't know who to actually jump out to when Ahmad and Umbermo have the ball. So really looking forward to seeing how that develops further as well throughout the season. But yeah, like I mentioned, that's why I'm just so disappointed in a way, because I think we really did deserve a point within that game. While in previous seasons, it would have been, like you mentioned, heads down after the goal and, damage limitation.
Yeah, I think Dorgu down the left as well was good. I quite liked the impact that he made. But I think what you said, Tom, as well, that it wasn't really a recognised number 9, had its benefits of, they were all rotating, but had its downside of there wasn't anyone in the box who could get on the end of a cross. Dorgu, a couple of times in that match, as he's running down the wing on the left-hand side there, goes to cross it in, but hasn't looked. He's gone on instinct to say there'll be someone in the box, and there just isn't.
Yeah. And he even had a go himself from quite a long way out, which hit the outside of the post, but it was a good effort from Dorgu. I think Dorgu will be more on the offensive this season than last season. I think it was more about settling in and trying to do his defensive duties. Whereas this season, I think he can afford to just push on and carry the ball forward. And if there is no one around him, and there's no one really to pick a pass to, why not have a go from outside the area? And I think, Arsenal would have been wary of that. I mean, we had 22 shots in the match compared to Arsenal's 10. And pretty much in the second half, Arsenal were more defensively. And they were resilient with Arsenal today, as what some had pointed out. And will that be enough for Arsenal to win the league? If they play like they did today alone, it would not be enough to win the league. And the reason why I say that is because I just don't think, like us, there is enough of the attacking instinct in there. Because goals are what are going to win games. And I think Arsenal may struggle in games like this where they'll be able to get it over the line. If that was Man City or Liverpool, or even a side like Crystal Palace, for instance, or Brighton, a particular team I went to go and see yesterday against Fulham, I think Arsenal can end up dropping points in situations like that. They cannot keep winning these games and just scraping over the line. They have to really put these teams to the sword. And I think today, I wouldn't say they put United to the sword, because I don't think the scoreline suggested it. I don't think Arsenal even needed to get out of... Let's say they need to get out of first gear. They weren't even out of second or third gear, really, for Arsenal. It was just more about keeping the ball and making sure United didn't put the ball in the back of the net.
Yeah, Arsenal's an interesting one. Looking at them today, I don't think they've solved any of their problems from last year. I think, Gyökeres didn't look that comfortable. They weren't adapting their game at all to play with them. It was a very similar Arsenal performance that we would have seen over the last couple of years, where they've got a goal, and Arsenal are a defensive team, and they pride themselves on that. And they just went to close that game down, and that's what they've done in all the big games. They were always criticised for not actually coming out and trying to beat Man City when they were going for the league, celebrating a point away at the Etihad, etc. And it was a classic Arsenal performance. So I don't see how they're going to take that next step and actually get over the line in the Premier League. But that's enough Arsenal talk, probably.
Yeah, on the Daily Manchester United. Absolutely. Well, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, a little bit more unpacking about certain players and maybe how does this match give us optimism for the next 37. We'll be back after this.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Your body is unique. And Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bayibdir-y, the world's most personalised supplements. Bayibdir-y provide 100% tailor-made supplements designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right levels to optimise your health. No guessing. So click the link in the show notes. Use the code GSPN2025 for 40% off your first month's subscription. Bayibdir-y. Don't settle for off-the-shelf solutions made for just anybody. Get what's right for you right now.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
As I mentioned previously, a handful of the new signings making their sort of Old Trafford debuts today in Umbermo and Matheus Cunha. We also saw Sesko come off the bench, Niall. I think it's safe to say he didn't have a lot of impact in that game.
Yeah, a little bit concerning, but very, very difficult to judge him off of the guts of 20 minutes, 25 minutes. United were really pushing for a goal at that stage, so Arsenal were really sitting in quite deep. A lot of the attacks that we were doing as well at the end was kind of long diagonals towards Maguire and Ligt and kind of hoping for something to come off. So I'm looking forward to seeing him from the start. I think based off what you were discussing in the first part there with Tom around not having a recognised striker, hopefully that is the gap that's needed when Dallo and Dorgu were getting down the wing and playing those pullbacks. There was no one there. So if we do play with more of a conventional 9 like Sesko, I really hope he can fill that void for us. So yeah, I think it's difficult to judge his performance off today. It doesn't fill you with confidence, but it also haven't lost any confidence as well from where I was with that signing. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, it's more like you don't feel deflated after this. It just feels a bit disappointing, as you mentioned earlier, Niall. It's a case of what could have been and what might have been. But Tom, how do you sort of take away from this result? Do the new signings excite you? Sesko off the bench. Is there anything in particular that maybe United could do better going into the next 37?
Well, let's not assume that today's result is a reflection of where United are going to end up at for the remainder of the season, because you don't know it. When we go to Fulham next week, a Fulham side which, I'll be honest with you, I was lucky enough to see Fulham yesterday. They weren't really that great going forward either, and I think creatively they got pretty much outdone by Brighton, but not by a long way. So if United can actually carry that forward from what we saw from the likes of Cunha and Umbermo in the first half especially, I think we can put Fulham to the sword easily and get a few goals out of it. If we can do that, that'd be fantastic. And that way it puts us in a better mindset for the game against Grimsby in the League Cup, which we should get over the line against. And then obviously it's a home game against Burnley, which we want to end the first part of the season with 2 wins on the board before the international break.
Full of optimism, Tom, I see. Okay. Yeah, especially with the Grimsby mention, there's full of confidence. But I feel like it doesn't feel like 3 points dropped or 1 point dropped or whatever. It just feels a bit disappointing that we couldn't drive on and get something additional from the game. It's a silly goal to concede. I think that's what makes it even more disappointing. Had that not happened, we'd be walking away with a draw. But sometimes such is life. But there you go. Now I'm going to sort of ask you because, and I'll come to you in a second, Tom, about which player out of the 15 that were on the pitch at some point impressed you the most today?
Yeah, it's a tough one because I think a lot of them played really well, and that hasn't been the case over the last year. It's been tough to pick out a player of the match from a United perspective. I thought Dorgu did excellently defensively on the left-hand side and going forward. It's great to have such an athletic player in that type of role. I think Ligt did really well as well. I thought he defended Gyökeres really well. One of my mates texted in and he's making Gyökeres making De Ligt look like prime Maldini, but I don't think he was too wrong, because De Ligt was having a stormer today. But for me, it has to be Cunha. I mean, I don't remember the last time United have had a player like that, where the excitement and the flair and the off the cuffness and the quality of being able to drive with the ball from anywhere on the pitch, be able to take players out of the game, whether it's by dribbling past them or by playing through balls, which he did especially in the first half. His fight and his passion, he continually kept going. He had a few shots on target as well. I'm really impressed by him, and I was nervous in a way to see how him and Umbermo would get on, because we've seen that curse in the past of good players coming to United, and it never seems to work out. But the confidence that he had today in driving past Rice a couple of times and driving through the heart of the Arsenal defence, I'm really, really excited about that. And I think it's been a long time since we had a type of player like that. So he would be the one that would stood out for me.
Okay, Tom, I'll come to you next. Who was your player that was your standout?
Yeah, I'll happily agree with Niall on this one. I thought Cunha was excellent, and he was brave enough to just take the defence on, particularly in that first half where he just couldn't quite get the shot away. But the way he powered through Arsenal's defence was exquisite, and that was the kind of flair that we needed for some time. So I'm looking forward to see what he can do. I mean, we're on the Sunday next weekend as well, so we've got a whole week where Amorim can work with the players on the training ground before he can put that into good effect for the game at Craven Cottage, and I'm confident United will go there and get a strong result.
Yeah, I quite liked Umbermo as well. As we've already mentioned, I thought he was very, very threatening in most of that game, I would say, in all honesty. And it comes to that final point in sort of, what was it, the last 10 minutes, was it? That, you had Umbermo and Ahmad just getting each other's way there. And you just think, that was a golden opportunity. But yeah, I just think it was more disappointing rather than deflating. There's definitely some positives to take forward from today. There absolutely is. That we look so much better going forward. We look so much more threatening going forward. And if we can just iron out those little bits of play where, if someone puts a cross in, our wing back puts a cross in, there'll actually be someone in there to meet it. Then, we're only a few pieces of the jigsaw away from getting up, a couple more positions. You'll never guess, though, as it stands, where we are in the table after today's result. Anybody want to take a guess?
15th.
15th. You're absolutely right. Yeah,
Lovely.
at the time of recording, we are 15th.
Lovely.
Oh, the more things change, the more they stay the same.
That's it. But I just on your point, Kieran, I think I really am boosted by that performance. I think, to your point of whether we can see that they might take some positives from this going forward into the rest of the league. I think the players, and this could be premature, but I think the players have started to understand the system better, and just small things throughout the pitch. Like we were kind of crying out for a centre midfielder, and I still think we need one. But Casemiro at no stage today looked isolated, and looked that the midfield was wide open, and there was huge gaps between the midfield and the defensive back three. I think you clearly saw that the defenders of the back three, so Yoro, De Ligt or Shaw, were jumping a lot more and putting pressure out and jumping out of that back five line, which I think last year they were hesitant because they didn't really know whether to go or whether to stay, and that's where the gaps kind of start to form. And I think that also to Tom's point around Dorgu being more offensive today, I think the wing backs now have the confidence in the midfield and in the back three to be able to defend that they can bomb forward a lot more. So I really, really do take a lot of confidence from today's game. I thought it was an excellent performance, and just really, like you mentioned, disappointing that we just couldn't get anything out of the game and nothing to show for it, really.
And Tom, I'll come to you for the final question. What did you make? It's sort of expanding from Niall there. What did you make of today's game?
I was satisfied with the performance. It's just that final bit of quality on the shooting range, because there were a lot of shots that just went blazing wide and over the bar. I think that's something that needs to be worked on the training ground. Other than that, I thought we put in a good shift today. It's just a shame that we couldn't get a point out of it at least, or a goal.
Yeah, Agate off long shots, I think, needs to be on the tick sheet.
Off the squad, I reckon.
Oh.
If we get on to that, I have a few pointers on Agate.
I guess so. Yeah. Well, then we've got a bit extra. Why not have it now? No, take the stage for Agate.
I mean, how can a defensive player have such an impact on the game when you're losing 1-0? I mean, it was actually incredible, some of the things that he'd done in his 20-minute cameo. The first one was setting up Havertz when he just just 5-yard passed it to him and said that he couldn't really see him. The second one then was the shot from, I'd say, it has to be 40 meters out. Like, you have to go back and watch it again to see how far out he was. And then the third one is just fouling Havertz when he has his back to goal, when United need to actually contain Arsenal in their own half. Arsenal are masters at time wasting and controlling a game when it comes to that. Every time you touch them, it'll be at least 2-3 minutes of game time that you've just lost. And it was similar when he gave it to Havertz, where they had a free kick out of that and just spent their time kind of humming and hawing over it. Rice takes it, get a corner. So that mistake, you're basically missing about 6 minutes of play that we couldn't do. So it's just not good enough, I don't think, for United. And I think it says a lot about Kobbie Mainoo as well, which is disappointing in the pecking order of where he thinks he is at the moment and what position he's likely to play for United this season. If it's clear that in that position Casemiro is number one, Ugarte is number two, struggling to see where Mainoo's going to fit into it. So I think it was just disappointing that, some really poor lapses of judgment there, but also wondering where that leaves some of the players within the squad also.
Tom, I'll open the stage to you on Ugarte.
I wasn't impressed with him today. He came on. I didn't think he had that much to prove, and he didn't really do anything that really set me alight. And I don't even think he had a good passing accuracy rate. I'm just looking at his stats on here. Just bear with me one moment whilst I do find it. Here we go. Look. So it's showing that his passing accuracy is 94.4%, which is very, very high. But he only made 18 passes since he came on in the second half, so that could well explain that rating. In terms of an overall rating that he's got, showing that he's 6.14, which is lower than most of what's on there. I think the only one that had a lower one or the only two were Maguire and Bayibdir-y, but Maguire only came on for the last 10 minutes. Really,
I reckon the guy giving those stats is Uruguayan, because that's 6 point something. They're basically the same as who was it that you said? Umbermo was 6.4, was it? And then he's got a 6.2, probably because it was pass completion. Just game intelligence is just lacking. Ugarte is going to be a talking point for me all season. It was last season as well. The jury's definitely not out. The jury's in. I just think it's about time that we really, really need a midfielder so that he can kind of be put down to the third choice, and then probably won't get as much game time. But we're definitely not going anywhere with him.
Well, there you go. Ugarte's been judged by a jury of his peers, and the jury of his peers is Niall Hannigan.
Yeah,
that's it. The gavel's down now, and that's that. I will say, Ugarte came on. Yeah, you're right. He did lack that little bit of intelligence in the game, where it's so important. And in a game where actually the referee, Simon Hooper, let quite a lot go. It was a very physical match by all accounts. There was a lot of, shoulder to shoulder. There was a lot of everything. And, it just looked like United were the stronger side when it came to actually, if it was shoulder to shoulder, if it was, body to body. Simon Hooper let a lot go. So for 2 or 3 fouls to come from Ugarte, there's a little bit of a concern.
No subtlety, no cuteness at all with his tackling. Like, things that you would associate with Casemiro, where his game intelligence, his legs are gone. He can't move, but he never makes those types of mistakes. Like looking at today, he's reading the game. He knows where he needs to be. Passing the ball to the opposition and just shooting from 45 yards is just absolute madness when you've only been on the pitch for 20 minutes. It's just incredible, really.
And that indirectly pretty much leads to Maguire's yellow card, because Maguire,
Maguire has to take him down, of course.
The no-nonsense approach for a centre-back is, either the ball gets past me or the man, not both. So Maguire chose the man doesn't get
first
past
principles.
That's it. So he picks up the yellow card there. So, it has to be, said, Ugarte, not the greatest game. But I think a lot of positives to take from this game. We look a lot better going forward. And to end it on a positive, Tom, what do we need to do differently next week on Sunday than what happened today to get all 3 points at Craven Cottage?
Well, work on the finishing. That has to be the number one priority. And I think there needs to be some goalkeeping coaching with Bayibdir-y if he's going to be starting again against Fulham, because he he just couldn't deal with it. He's not strong enough to really sort out his his clearance from the corners. If he's going in to get a hand on it, to get it away, he's got to get up there, jump like he owns it. Because at the moment he's just getting outnumbered by the opposition, and because they're trying to take him out of the game basically, and trying to make him like he's in no man's land. So there's just needs to be some goalkeeping coaching for Bayibdir if he's going to be a regular number one for Manchester United, even though he does have the number one on the back of his shirt.
Yeah.
I think the number one priority, I think, will be the finishing. That has to be it, because we're not in a position to win the league. So if we're not in the position to win the league, we've got to do what we know is what is going to win us games, and that is goals.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that wholeheartedly. Niall, what do we need to do differently next week?
I would tend to agree. I honestly think a lot of what we did was really good. We created a lot of chances, but you might have said, we created some chances last year, but we actually created real chances with players with better quality. So I take a lot of confidence from that. I think the finishing, I think there was a couple of just touches in the box that just were unfortunate, maybe bobbled the right way. Nothing was really setting up for us. So I would agree with Tom that just to kind of sharpen up on that. And I think that'll come when they start to continue to get used to playing together. I think he'll go with Ahmad in that right wing back role. That's a tough one to say fast, because against the lesser teams or teams that were fancied to get points from, I think he'll start with a more attacking outlet when it comes to that. And I think Sesko will probably start as well, just to get him embedded. So looking forward to seeing how they get on. Unfortunately, Bayibdir, I think, is past goalkeeping coaches. I think he's a lost cause. I don't think a week of training is going to help him.
So you think Tom Heaton should come in then?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%, no doubt. Tom Heaton or someone from the academy. Like, Bayibdir is probably 6 foot. Tom, you can look this up. How tall is Bayibdir? Bayibdir is probably 6'6", 6'7". With his arms in the air, he's probably 7'2", probably more. And then jumping, he's probably over 8 foot, 9 foot.
He's about 6'4", 6'5". He's 198 centimeters, which I think translates to 6'4", 6'5". That's Sesko.
6'5".
That tall. Yeah. So
it's like what Roy Keane said in the overlap this week about James Trafford. They were like, James Trafford's 6'6". They were like, but is he a big 6'6" though? I think that's exactly the issue we have with Bayibdir. He just looks hapless in there, the poor man. So I think we need to get Tom Heaton in against Fulham.
There you go. Niall has spoken. Tom Heaton should be starting against Fulham now. You've heard it, Ruben Amorim. I guess make it happen. From us here, though, at the Daily Manchester United, that's going to bring a wrap and a full time on our matchday review episode. A 1-0 loss at home to Arsenal. Not the best way to start the season, but we kick off next week at the same time, 4:30 on the Sunday, to take on Fulham away at Craven Cottage. Make sure you do follow us on all the socials as well. We are GSPN Man United. We're on X and Twitter. We're on Instagram. We're on TikTok. And we're also on YouTube as GSPN Man United Podcast. It's so long, so you have to remember it. I've been Kieran. You've had Niall and Tom alongside as well on today's episode. We'll talk to you in a bit. In the meantime, try and enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll talk to you soon.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.